A little drum call before we start. Give people a few minutes to log in. Greetings, Cali from North Carolina. Baby love! So we called on the spirits to come. It is an African thing. It is an African city, an African village, where we are gathered to discuss things of African life, Black people around the world. So now we have the drum call. We shall pour libation or tambiko to remember the name of the ancestors and to pay respect to the Most High. We pour to the universal Mother, Father, God, who is and shall forever be. Amen. Ashe, Ra, Ashe, Ja, Rastafari, Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jesus, Yahweh, all the divinities throughout time. Ashe, we pay homage and respect to them. We pour to our ancestors whom we lost in the Middle Passage. Ashe, to those we lost in chattel slavery. Ashe, to those we lost under Jim Crow. Ashe, to those we lost under oppression. Ashe, to drug addiction and incarceration. Ashe, we pour to those in our personal families. Ashe, Paul White, Ruth White, Alelia White, Andrew White, Catherine White, James White. Ashe. We pour to the ancestors whom names we did not know. Ashe. Pour to our freedom fighters, our heroes. Ashe. And our sheroes. Ashe. And we pour to our educators. Ashe. Dr. Clark. Our other freedom fighters, El Hajj Malik Shabazz. Let's pour to Marcus Garvey. Ashe. Elijah Muhammad. Ashe. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Ashe. And as we begin, so shall we end. Pouring to the universal spirit, Mother, Father, God, who is and shall forever be. Amen. Ashe. Amen. Ashe. Amen. Ashe. All right. So we have the Tambiko poured. We did the drum call. So the ancestors know where to come. Say, ancestors, we didn't send you an invitation, but we're going to send you some directions. Going to give you a Google Map joint. And so since we are talking about upliftment, liberation, I'm going to light the candle, which in our instance represents wisdom. The light of knowledge blessings. Ashe. Ashe. One last thing I like to do, because I like that flavor, that African flavor, that that our own little perspective on things. I like to create the mood. So today, even though this is not necessarily an African incident, we're gonna light up the namaste to get the vibe right, get that mood right. So hopefully, as we continue um, these series of conversations that we're going to have, and remember, they are called the Cultivated African. This is a series of conversations I want to have to discuss how we cultivate ourselves. What are some of the issues we have in cultivating ourselves? What are some of the issues in our community? What are some of the things that we need to combat? We need to deal with. You know, my daughter's boyfriend came over, and I told him to put the incense in the incense holder. And he did it like this. He's like, I never saw an incense holder like this. And I mean, you can do it like that, but you got to open the joint up, put the incense on the inside for proper disposal of the ash. So yeah, I ain't gonna say nothing what his name is. I ain't gonna put his name in the streets there. But yeah. Let's just say his name ain't Kunta Kinte. All right. Let's get the camera right up. So I want to sing greetings to everyone. Greetings. As we have this conversation, if you want to join, send me a DM or a message in Messenger, and I will send you a link. You can join the podcast. You can join the fun. You can join the vlog today. Yeah. So, welcome everybody. Happy day after Turkey Day. Happy day after Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you got a chance to spend some time, and let me know if the audio is fine. I did a microphone check. 1, 2. What is this? A little earlier, but there's always room for improvement. So I want to thank you. Big up for all the massive people that come to join me today. Before I move on, I would be remiss without giving a heartfelt condolence to my friend Marcel Palma. I'm gonna call him the mayor of PG, the mayor of Punta Gorda, in Toledo, Belize. My good brethren passed away a week or so ago due to COVID. Yeah, I gotta represent that Ankh right there. Due to COVID, great brother, great man of the people. He had a podcast called Everyday Belize, or Everyday Belize. It was Every Man Believes, but then somebody told him, "What about the women?" So I think he changed the name to Everyday Belize. So, rest in power, Baba Bap Play, Marcel Palmer, also known as Bap Play. Big up to him, as he's now a ancestor. Sad, man. I know you guys. A lot of folks with conspiracies and all those things, and who knows where COVID came from. I believe it's man-made, but regardless, it's out there, and I implore you, you stand a better chance against what's ever in the vaccination than you do against what is in that virus, especially if you're a little older. Marcel was only 40, but I'm not sure if he had underlying health conditions or not, but rest in peace, Baba. And I would ask you all to please kindly take care of yourselves. All right, let us move on. So today's topic is also, like I said, the cultivated African. But I wanted to talk about Niggas and gold diggers. That's the name of the topic. Niggas and gold diggers. I said, man, that's not a very enlightened topic, brother. Why you want to talk about niggas and gold diggers? And because before we get into the cultivating of the African and cultivating ourselves with knowledge and information and procedures and processes, we, myself included, have to cultivate ourselves on the inside. We have to cultivate our spirit, our way of being, our way of communicating with each other, our communities, our families, and our relationships. Because, of course, the center of any nation, right, is the family. If you do not have a strong family, you will not have a strong and viable nation. So we have to, as melanated people all around the world, call yourself African, indigenous, whatever, we have got to return to a world of strong families. That way we cannot be abused and misused by the powers that be, and the powers that be definitely will misuse us and abuse us if we let them. And the way we do that is by being divided. And, they work to divide us along all types of lines through uh, race and culture and status and um, what is it called? Caste systems and um, strata of education and strata of class and so forth. So the best thing we can do to improve the condition of people all around the world is to have strong families and be united against whatever ills that are in this world. And so, in order to talk about the refinement or to talk about or to begin to work on the cultivation of the African, and remember, from the first episode or first conversation, if you did not listen to that, I recommend go back and listen to it. It is on the YouTube page of African World Study Group. That's AFRIKAN World Study Group. AFRIKAN World Study Group on YouTube. And I believe the link is also on Facebook or the Book of Faces. So please go back and check that first video out where we talk about the cultivation of the African, and we'll continue to have that conversation because remember, to cultivate is to make something better, a more productive state. So we're going to cultivate ourselves, right, to be more productive human beings. We're going to cultivate ourselves to be more productive as African people, as Black people, colored people, Creole, whatever you want to call yourself. All these names we give ourselves. And it kind of doesn't make any sense because the only person, the person that created all of these divisions is the person that is without melanation in their skin. So unfortunately, the rest of us have to fall by all these different designations when they're really just human beings. But whatever we call ourselves, as we find ourselves around the world discriminated against because of the color of our skin or our culture, we must then unite around that so that we cannot be discriminated and abused around that particular illogical reasoning or logical condition or whatever you want to call it. So to cultivate the African, we have to become more productive. And to be more productive, we have to protect ourselves. We have to have more values in our culture that will, in fact, produce the results that we want. Culture conveys the values of a group in order to produce a certain output, a certain outcome. So if you are a person of a certain way, a certain race, a certain ethnic group, your culture should produce the outcome that would ensure that your ethnic group is successful in the future. And if you have a culture that does not promote and set up institutions and set up systems by which you are empowered more in the future or can guarantee for yourself more freedom in the future, then in fact your culture is a false culture. You're operating under some sort of false or implanted um, way of being. Because what organism on this planet is going to work to its detriment? What organism on this planet is going to work to benefit something else instead of itself? Every plant, every animal out there is trying to survive and have its offspring survive into the future. Why is our culture that we practice a culture that does not promote life for us, but in fact promotes death and destruction for ourselves? So, to begin to cultivate those issues, we've got to work on our relationships. So, today and tomorrow, I'm focusing on issues within relationships, within Black man, Black woman relationships. And today we're going to just start with who we are as men and women, right? And I use the term niggas and gold diggers because that's what we begin to refer to ourselves as. I'm not going to call women by what they call themselves, a bad B or a diva or a boss B. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, we say that hip hop was denigrating to women and men were referring to women as these things. And I'd never liked that music per se. I remember in the 80s, I was I was trying to be Malcolm X in college and walking around with bow ties and suits on and fighting the power and wanting to be KRS-One and the other conscious elements out there. And I would listen to my folks listening to this music, and I'm like, yo, you are feeding yourself. And it's fun and it's out of that, yeah, but you're feeding yourself this mentality to which now women themselves positively refer to themselves as a bad B. So, just like Carter G. Woodson, my fraternity brother Carter G. Woodson said um, in his book Miseducation of the Negro, you do not have to create a door for the Negro. If you don't have to create a back door for the Negro, if there's no back door, he will create his own back door. Meaning that we internalize the negative stereotypes of ourselves and revel in them. So now women are calling themselves the bees and the hoes and the yeah, I don't want to sound like an old fogey doggy, whatever it's called, old fuddy duddy, but there's something to be said about holding certain parts of your culture as sacred. And right now, Black folks, we don't have much that's sacred. I think we talk more fondly about macaroni and cheese than we do each other. That's about the only sacred thing we have left. Some of our food traditions, no raisins in the potato salad. But anyway, so I use those titles, niggas and gold diggers, because it's a striking statement, right? Um, why are we known as niggas and gold diggers? And so I am going to open up a little PowerPoint I have prepared. I'm going to try my best to get this thing to work right. But there are all kinds of gremlins in the interwebs. I'm getting better this week. I was actually able to start on time. I was on time. I was on time. On time is late, but I was on time. But now here's another milestone. Let's see if we can, in fact, get this up and running. This PowerPoint slideshow. Yay, yay. I know I'm bugging, right? Nope. That's not working right. Let's see here. Excuse me while I work this out real quick. See slides. What? Back or unblock? No, that's not what I want to do. How do I change the monitor it's on? Nope. That's not it. Display settings. Here we go. Swap. There we go. All right. Now I can share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm trying to do here. I know. Forgive me, people. Technical stuff. All right, now how do I share my screen? Share it there. Share screen. And I want to share this one. Alrighty. Okay. I think I got it working. Again, if you would like to join me as a guest, please let me know. I can send you the link and you can be a part of the conversation. I want this to be a dialogue. I don't want it to be a monologue. I want us to have a conversation. This is the African World Study Group. So, before I know we're not into books and stuff right now, but eventually We will be. And so, yeah, I want us to have a dialogue, not just me talking. So, again, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, please send me a message and I will send you the link to join me here on this vlog. So, niggas and gold diggers. And the subtitle, of course, addressing the failed relationships between with failed relationships, addressing the failed relationship paradigm, excuse me. Of course, the subtext of that being between men and women, black men and women. So, why does this title? What does? Oh God, why does this title? Why this title? What was I doing here? I should have got somebody to proofread this. We're gonna fix that. Why this title is what that was supposed to say. Um, I want to talk about the adversarial climate between black men and women. You know, um, why does it exist? Why are we at odds? Um, who's trying to keep us at odds? What does it serve us to be at each other's throat all the time? Um, because we got to think about this, right? Nothing in this world happens that is not pretty much by design, right? We have a society, we have a culture, we have a government, we have governments. If you don't believe there's one world government, we have governments that are able to listen to every type of media. They can spy on our homes. They know how we spend our money. They know what we're doing. Um, and if they wanted to stop certain things, they would. So, and we recently had Facebook put on blast because someone dropped dime on the algorithm, and that algorithm is that things that are negative are promoted way more than things that are positive, right? So if you go onto YouTube or other platforms and you want to, I don't know, look up something about Yorkie dogs or whatever, right? You put it in and it's going to start playing a video about Yorkies, and then before you know it, it's going to have some show about a man and a woman arguing over Yorkies, and it's going to show you something negative like Yorkies peeing on people's yards or whatever it is. So if it bleeds, it leads, right? That is the way of social media. Things that are negative will get more clicks, right? Things that are negative will get more attention. And why do they want your attention? Because they want you to buy. We have all these ads, they're collecting data on us, right? So we have voluntarily taken the proverbial, what is it, blue pill, right? We have walked into the matrix, you know, giving people, not only are we walking in, but we're paying to be a part of it. We pay thousands of dollars for iPhones, and well, y'all pay for an iPhone because I think all people that have iPhones are posers. No, I just don't like iPhones. I just think that uh, what is it called? If you want to create an app for Apple, you have to pay money to get the source code to produce an app for Apple. Versus if you use an Android device, Android is open source, so anyone can create an app. It promotes more and more entrepreneurism, and I just prefer um, Android to Apple, but that's my own personal spiel. Please don't hate me for that. But yeah, so we pay all this money to just be a part of the matrix. They are listening to everything that we say. I live in the Baltimore, Maryland, DC area, and I have several dozens of my close fraternity brothers that work in in buildings for the government with with no windows. They have to leave their phones in their cars. You cannot communicate with them during the day. It takes, and I'll just say it like this: and I don't know what they do, but being a person that understands how this world works, it takes thousands and tens of thousands of quote unquote analysts to listen and to interpret all of the data that the government is collecting on us for national security. So imagine what private companies are doing. Just imagine what they're doing, because they don't have to go look for it. They don't have to get subpoenas and search orders or warrants or whatever to listen to certain things. On these platforms, we give them the right. No one reads the articles that you sign away when we accept the terms and conditions of these apps. So we voluntarily walk into the matrix. So we have to think about that. right? Um, I believe this adversarial climate is meant for Black folks, of course, by design, to keep us um, as second class citizens, because if a family is not united, they cannot prosper. I believe a secondary reason for that is if you have a man and a woman that cannot come to terms about things, you need to have two households. If you have two households, you have two electric bills, two gas bills, two cars, two sets of furniture, two sets of everything. So by keeping us individualistic, we're not able to save as much, and we have to produce or consume more, right? Everything. Just think about that. Think about that. If I think the divorce rate is over 50% now, if you took and create made that divorce rate zero by some, happenstance or whatever, you would reduce tens of millions of households requiring less housing, less wood, less everything. What would that do to the economy? What do you think about that? What would strong families united literally do to the US economy if all of a sudden half of the households decided to sell their houses, sell all that crap, and unite? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And if you start talking about that, don't tell them you heard it from me, because I don't want no smoke with the government or these businesses out here. But I just want you to think about that. Keeping Black folks separated reduces our power base, right? Reduces our savings, reduces our ability to have generational wealth, right? Reduces our ability to really focus on things that would better ourselves. Because if every 5, 6 years we're out here in new relationships, we never get a chance to really focus on things, right? And a people united and focused are able to do great things. People often ask, well, how did they build the pyramids? They built the pyramids because they were Black folks focused and united. When we are focused and united, we can do great things. We can create miracles. We can create wonders of the world that last for thousands of years, as a testament to what a united people can do, right? So think about that. If we were hunter gatherers and in barbarism, right, we could have not mapped the stars. There's something called the Great Year in the Egyptian pantheon of wisdom. It's called the Great Year. It's a 26,000 year observation of the heavens above. They noticed that the Earth within the solar system, right, our solar system rather, within the galaxy, spins, and it takes 26,000 years for our solar system within our galaxy to move around the galaxy, if that makes any, if you understand what I'm saying. 26,000 years. And they observed that we call it, Leo and Cancer and Pisces and Sagittarius, the zodiac signs. Well, those zodiac signs literally represent a mapping of the stars above, right? And there's something called the Great Year. That's a 26,000 year observation. Think about that. In order to create and understand that it's a 26,000 year observation, you've got to have at least done it twice. So you're talking about a 52,000 years of wisdom to understand the cycles of the solar system within our galaxy? How stable of a society do you have to have where you have enough food, rice, wheat, meat, don't forget the wine and beer, in the storehouse to observe something in the sky for 52,000 years? You have to come from a people that are very stable, that are united, that have some stuff going on. They really ain't worried about too much. First of all, you have to be in the same spot to begin to wonder, to begin to observe and say, hey, my grandfather talked about this thing in the sky, blah, blah, blah. And, his granddaddy said, well, you got to pretty much be in the same space, in the same area, right? Because remember, those stars that we see are different than the stars that they see in the southern hemisphere, right? So a Black family united can do miraculous things, right? That's what our ancestors have shown us, right? And I use ancient Kemet as an example, not because Kemet is somehow unusual. It's unusual because they were in a climate without a lot of vegetation, so They did what black folks do. They did art on what was available. So they did art on stone. A lot of the art in southern and central Africa was done on wood. That's what's available. And those things, of course, wood does not last like stone does. And of course, the Egyptian or the Kemetan civilization itself came from inner Africa. Um, because, of course, they said their civilization began at the foothills of the mountains of the moon where the god Hapi dwells. And the god Hapi, of course, is the Nile River. And the Nile River flows from the south to the north. So the god Hapi was, of course, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kilimanjaro, those mountains in inner Africa and Kenya, where the origins of the Nile River begins, of course, also in Ethiopia. Anyway, I digress. So that's what black folks can do when we're united. So the adversarial climate, I believe, is by design, right? And what is a nigga? What is a nigga, right? We so-called affectionately call ourselves a nigga, right? But what does that stem from? You know, I believe etymologically it really comes from um, some Europeans trying to say Niger, Niger, the Niger area, the Niger region, right? Niger, and but it became no matter where it came from, right? It became nigga, and it became a derogatory title put on our ancestors, used to denote, a subhuman status, right? Now we could say we have transition that word into something positive. But I want you to think about this. That word is often the last thing that some of our ancestors heard before they were lynched, before they were hung up on trees and burned alive, before some of the women had their guts and entrails spewed out of their body, along with infant babies, right? And these folks burned those bodies and took the burnt fingers, toes, penises, and testicles of our ancestors and took them as trophies. And the last thing they heard was nigger. Now, I likened taking the word nigger and making it something positive, like eating chitlins, right? It's shit that we had to use for food. But at some point in time, gotta stop eating shit. Excuse my French. And this is not to negate anybody's cuisine. Chitlins on a rare occasion. I mean, my father used to eat them, okay, but you don't live off of it. So a nigga, right, is something that we claim to be a term of affection that comes from abuse, from a traumatic time in our life. And personally, I don't think we should promote it. I know um, people a lot smarter than me, Baba Dick Gregory, and Paul Mooney, and the other folks say we have to take that word and make it power. I disagree. I think it has served its purpose, and we don't want to forget, but I don't think we want to be so casual with it. But we have now called ourselves these niggas, and to me, that represents um, the bastardization of our persona. That we hold on to a title of something derogatory, something was associated with being subhuman, right? So, uh, does that behavior reflect subconsciously in us? And I believe it does, because you are what you think you are. And although we say, yeah, nigga doesn't mean that anymore, it means, you my boy, blah, blah, blah. No, we know what it means. Subconsciously, we know what it means. And how many of us walk around saying, yeah, 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 I love myself, but we really don't. So we really have to watch what we feed ourselves subconsciously, because our subconscious is much more astute than we give credit for. And what is a gold digger? I said gold digger, but the term that we are using now is bad bee. She's a bad bee. She's a queen bee. She's a boss bee. What is a bitch, right? A bitch is a female dog, right? Um, a bitch is something that also, is meant to denigrate and make less than human, right? In order to have power over something, so you think you can destroy it, you must dehumanize it. One thing that the European did, or the colonizer, as they said, um, the colonizer did, is they had to dehumanize the African. They had to make us three-fifths of a man, or savages, and all these other things, which surprisingly, before the 15th century, right? That was not the case. There was no race 1,000 years ago. There was no race 1,000 years ago. There was class, there was culture, there was nations, there was ethnic groups, but there was no race. There's no black race. There's no Chinese race. There's no Indian race, and there still aren't any races. There's one race, and that's the human race. Um, a race, as defined genetically or whatever, is a species that can copulate with each other and produce the same thing, right? So any dog can copulate with another dog and produce a dog. Be it if you have a German Shepherd with one of those little rat dogs, Yorkies, whatever you call those little pocketbook dogs, right? I don't know how that would work, but they're dogs. They can get along with each other. They're the same species. All human beings are the same species. There is no race. That is a construct to separate us. That is relatively recent. But at any rate, the woman now calls herself this B. So again, taking something that was to denigrate the woman and to try to put a spin on it to make it positive. And again, you may think, or we may think that, yeah, it's fun. I'm a bad boy. No, no, your subconscious is much more astute than you give it credit for. And every time you call yourself a B, right? Now, why can I say nigga but not say bitch? I don't know. See, that's crazy. Every time you call yourself a bitch, excuse me, I think subconsciously, your your feelings are like, damn, I'm a bitch. Really? That's something negative, a bitch, something disrespectful. You know what I mean? And yeah, you can try to say you can clean up and it means something, but no, it doesn't. You know, that language transition has only been around for 30 years or so, right? 30 years ago, a bitch was something negative, right? To your grandparents, it's something negative. Um, so I think when you say that to yourself about yourself, subconsciously, you know, you're there. You're damaging yourself. But we use these terms anyway. We call them terms of affection and endearment, but I beg to differ. There are no niggas. There are no bitches. We are black men and women, right? Now let's move on. All right. So what does history teach us, right? What what was the role of the black woman compared to today? What was her role? All right, now. So this is where I'm going to point you to this photo that's on the screen, right? It is the photo of Queen Tutankhamun, King Tut's throne chair that was found in his tomb. Now, if you ever heard anybody say Egyptians were white, all you got to do is Google King Tut's throne chair, and then you'll see.
These pictures should match.
Man, Google, stop. See, Google's listening. I said something and it went and looked up King Tut's throne chair. It's the Matrix. It's terrible. Anyway, so on this photo of this beautiful chair, and this is real gold, right? Gold plated. You can see the beautiful queen with her locks or braids, beautiful melanated skin. This is King Tut. I believe his wife was Aksin Amun, and Tutankhamun. Of course, they were born. He was born as Tutankhaten, but of course, his crazy uncle wanted to get rid of everything, and Akhenaten Amenhotep the third or fourth became Akhenaten made everybody change their name to the Aten instead of the Amin. And then once he became king, he had to change it back. But anyway, again, I digress. That's another class. So you see, the king is in this chair, right? Now, in ancient Kemet, in ancient Africa, most of the societies were matrilineal. Matrilineal. What does that mean? That means the bloodline is through the woman. You trace your origins, your ethnicity, your culture, your family through the woman. That is the oldest form of civilization, nations, families, cities, whatever you want to call it. It's the strongest form of organizing. And I want you to think about why. I want you to think about why. Because it's only relatively recent in human history that paternity has been a thing. So human beings have been around 200,000-300,000 years as Homo sapiens sapiens, and of that human existence, paternity is relatively recent. For some cultures, uh, 1,000 or 2,000 years, and for other cultures, it's been around for a long time, maybe 3 or 4,000 years, but not much longer than that. Because before then, imagine you're living in a quote unquote primitive prehistoric society, and the women just have children. You have no idea, no concept that what you do in terms of sex produces that child. There's no correlation. That is new, folks. That is new. Before then, there was the group, right? Be it hunter gatherer or farmer. The women just had children. The women had sex. The men had sex with the women. The children came. We took care of each other. There was no paternity. The concept of paternity is relatively new in the human experience. So, if you just some dude chilling, beating on your drum, right? And all of a sudden you see the woman, oh my God, the woman, she has a child come from her legs, and the woman give birth. Oh my God, that woman is God. She is God. Oh my goodness. She is the divine queen of the universe, which is why in ancient Kemet, she's the sky. She's heaven. The black woman is heaven. There's no relationship between paternity. There's no correlation between paternity, who the father is, and the child. That is a recent thing. That's a recent understanding, right? Um, with that being said, that is why most societies initially were matrilineal, because nobody knew who the father was. Nobody cared. Some of you might call it some simping stuff, but it still doesn't matter, right? It takes a village to raise a child. That is very true. And as much as you might try to isolate yourself from children who may not be your responsibility and who have less than your kids may have, we still have to deal with the consequences of those children who don't have fathers, who don't have proper parentage. We still got to deal with all that stuff, right? Because if a person doesn't have, they're going to go get, they're going to go find. If they got to kick in your door or steal from your car or break in your business or whatever. If a person is not able to eat, they are going to eat unless they're suicidal. And if need be, they'll eat you, maybe literally or literally or figuratively. But anyway, so the concept of paternity is relatively new. So before that, women had children, the men were there, we fed each other, we took care of each other. It was what it was, pure and simple. Um, so in this photo, you see that uh, Queen Akhenamun is anointing him. She has her hand, she has the oil, right? And she has her hand, and she is anointing him to be the king. He is not the king unless she anoints him. In ancient Africa, especially in Kemet, I love this, that for one aspect of God that's masculine, you had to have another aspect that is feminine, right? Um, I'm not I'm familiar with Ifa, but I don't know the deities necessarily. But I believe, for there to be an Ogun, there had to be an Oshun, right? Um, in Kemet, in order for there to be a king, there must be a queen. The duality of life was plain and simple. You could not have one without the other. So in that, um, you had the balance, but the power to the throne came through the woman. So you see here, she has the oil in her hands, and she is anointing him to take the throne. As Insubiti, that is the King of Kings, Insubiti, in ancient Medu Neter, Insubiti. So that was the role of the woman. The role of the woman was to give life and to sustain life and to make life beautiful, to make life joyous, right? And that was a revered role. It wasn't something that a man wanted to do, it was something he could not do, right? And we were in awe of our women. We respected our women. We held them in high regard and high esteem. Now, let's compare that to today. And this is partly on the fault of men and the part on the fault of women. But actually, before that, let's talk about, what's the man's role, right? What was the man's role? Of course, we talk about the man's role was to, we talk about now to provide, profess, provide, and protect. But then, of course, the man's role, in ancient Kemet, there were, in the Medu Neter, there's certain words that represent certain occupations. And just like in, like French or Italian, I believe what are they called? They're called Latin languages, as opposed to English, which is a Germanic language. In Latin languages, you have words that are feminine and masculine, right? In ancient Kemet, you had Medu Neter, the hieroglyphs per se, that were feminine and masculine. And there were only certain professions for women, and the majority of the professions were for men. Well, why do you say that? Because it was the man's role, right? Because if a man, if a person, if a being does not have a role in a society, right, it leads to chaos. So there were some occupations that were for men and some occupations that were for women, and that was okay and that was accepted because we revered something more than our concept of money. We revered family. We revered nutrition. We revered culture. Back in ancient Kemet, the mourning period was 70 days, right? From the time the ancestor transitioned to when there were the final rites. 70 days of ritual. 70 days of ritual. Even in America, 60 years ago, when people died, people wore certain colors for a year, right? We didn't just throw the dead into a grave and move on. There was the ritual of life. There was a ceremonial dinner, a ceremonial bath. I mean, weddings that took months to happen with party after party, you know. And when Mr. Bobo, came to Africa or came around the world and saw people that were really living, right? Every day there's a party, a festival, or something. That's life. Life is for the living, not for the working. And a good part of that festival, that culture of life, is produced by the woman. Right. So you might have a man that's a mason or, some type of builder or, doing animal husbandry. I don't want to say farming because women actually did participate in farming a lot and in some of the sciences as well. So, but the majority of the jobs were masculine jobs. They were male jobs because the women, their primary responsibility was to raise the children and be the vassal for the culture, right? And if you think about a woman's, not every woman is not the same, of course. No person is the same. But speaking in generalizations, the nature or the nurturing aspect of women, or the detail orientation of women to certain things when it comes to colors and flowers and smells and flavors, that genetic Disposition to those things is for a reason, because a woman is the vessel of the culture. She's the first one to impart that culture onto the children. And again, what is the purpose of culture? To make sure that the culture, to make sure that your species or your kind or your ethnic group is taken into the future. Your culture is supposed to produce more of you in a positive and progressive light, not to degress. Your culture should produce a more refined version of you. Your culture should cultivate a better life for you and your offspring. That is what culture is supposed to do. And if the one who's imbued with the God given ability to create and imbue that culture into the children, what happens? Right? We become more materialistic. We become more anti human. We become more machine like because we don't have culture. All we're worried about is working. And I've kind of mixed things up talking about what the role of the woman was and sort of jump forward to um, where are we today? And that's exactly where I wanted to go, right? That both men and women have value in our society, right? They have value in our world. They have value in existing as men and women. A woman can do anything a man can do. A man can almost do anything a woman can do. But why would a woman want to do what a man can do when she can be much greater? Men hold the seed to life, right? Without the seed, there is no life, right? Just like without the egg, there is no life. But the woman is the vessel to which life is brought to this plane. Literally, God comes in you, goes in your womb, and puts life there and expects you and has given you the responsibility, woman, to primarily be the person that's going to take that life and to make it prosper, to cultivate it. And I was, even in my younger days, I was mixed up. I was trying to be a two income household and be a millionaire by the time I was 30 and had misplaced values and um, to some regret, you know, falling into this American dream, which is really a nightmare, not understanding the purpose, really, of what a man and woman is supposed to be. We're not the same. We're equal, but we're not the same. We have different roles and capabilities. Anybody can do anything, yes, but why do you want to? Why do we value going out to make money more than to be able to educate a child or to um, take care of a family or to raise a family or to provide good food and nutrition or a beautiful home, a comfortable place to be? Why do we place a greater value in those things? That's the misalignment of our culture, to where now that we have bad bees and women are considering themselves to be bad bees, bad bosses, boss bees, because they want to be like a man. They want to earn the income of a man to say, hey, excuse my language, my dick is just as big as yours. My wallet is just as big as yours. And so now we've become a group of money hungry, materialistic people with really out any culture that is made to produce something beneficial for us and our children into the future. Our role as human beings is to be human being, to be a human, a human being, not a human doing, right? We are supposed to do more than just do in life. We're supposed to be and enjoy life, right? But a lot of us spend time doing, producing, consuming, and we often don't get a chance to enjoy the type of culture that we were meant to have as human beings. I mean, just imagine a world where you live and you really don't have to worry about anything. I think the majority of reason why we have so much stress and cancer in this world is because of stress. Even though you can go out and you can work 40, 50 years, as soon as you leave your job, you got to worry the next day where you're going to get some food to eat from. Our culture has no value of human beings. We have only value we have is what have you done for me lately? What can you do for me? Okay. Well, get the water and leave the light out. Excuse me. Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by a midnight marauder trying to hit the fridge, yeah, we're supposed to live, not just do and consume, but to be and to live life. So we're running up on an hour here. Um, I wanted to see if anybody wanted to join or had any comments, but the chat line was very, very quiet tonight. Nobody said anything at all, except I got one comment saying, "Hey, does anyone have any questions or any comments or anything like that that would like to be a part of the discussion?" Um, you do not have to join if you don't want to come on camera. But if you have dialogue, if you have a question, if you have something you want to say or add, please let me know. Um, Tomorrow, we're having another conversation about Mr. Kevin Samuels. Of course, she has to use the ice machine and make all that noise because I'm live on YouTube and Facebook. We're having a conversation about Mr. Kevin Samuels. I call it Kevin Samuels for Dummies. um, so he's a very controversial figure. We'll talk about the pros and the cons about Mr. Samuels and some of the things that he believes and talks about. Um, but yeah, so it is now 8 o'clock. It has been an hour. I want to thank you for joining the Cultivated African as we talk about niggas and gold diggers. And I hope we get a chance to reflect on the little things I talked about. Again, if you have any kind of critique or words, good or bad, please inbox me or text me or do whatever. I want to make this, again, a forum for dialogue, not just monologue. Hopefully, people will get up the courage sometime to come and join me on these. I'm going to try to do them every 2 weeks. I'm going to do another one tomorrow because, because of the holiday or whatever, I was off and have some time. So I want to get some stuff in. Please like and share this. If you're watching this eventually on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe to the African World Study Group. If you're watching this via a Facebook link, please like and share, and please try to promote these videos. I want to resume the African World Study Group as a real force in transforming the culture of Black folks by first working on ourselves internally, and then we'll get into some of that head knowledge. The culture of ancient Kemet is one that has transformed my life. Being raised a Christian and having a more spooky approach to life and religion and faith, believe me, ancient Kemet and a lot of African traditional belief systems are very much rooted in reality and are rooted in things that you can see because they're based on the earth. And the stars in the sky there. And really, that's what Christianity and Islam is about anyway. But we don't want to go there. Oftentimes, science is conveyed through myth and parable, and it's all up in that Bible. But anyway, I will bid you a good night, a farewell. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Please like, share, and promote this. And until next time, peace and blessings.